Canada and the United Kingdom have struck a post-Brexit free trade deal.
And of course, now we get to continue to work on a bespoke agreement, a comprehensive agreement over the coming years that'll really maximize our trade opportunities and boost things for everyone.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau discussed the deal with British Prime Minister Boris Johnson this morning. They were joined on a four-way video conference call by Canada's International Trade Minister Mary Ng and her British counterpart. The deal comes into effect on New Year's Day. It's described as a transitional agreement that sets the stage for a more robust deal to come. CBC's Janice McGregor has been tracking this story, listening in and asking questions, joins us now from Ottawa once again. So Janice, walk us through this deal and more specifically, why it's necessary.
Yeah, and I should say, John, let's not put cart before process horse here. They hope it'll be in effect January 1. Let me explain here. Basically, when Brexit happened, when the UK left the European Union, Canada, of course, had a very robust, comprehensive trade deal with the continent. It has done very well by that. It has boosted trade. The UK, a historic, very significant trading partner of Canada, among sort of the top 5 by any measure of the trade partners we would value most, really. And so, yes, Brexit happened, but they didn't want to disrupt all the kind of good liberalization and tariff cuts that came with that European trade deal. So temporarily, they said, let's just keep it in place till the end of 2020. However, that timeline did not really allow them, and frankly, until recently, the UK hasn't had the jurisdiction to negotiate a real kind of bespoke, comprehensive bilateral trade agreement between the two. So they realized they needed something to fill that gap, or else they were going to have a whole lot of importers and exporters and people that invest in both countries facing some pretty massive disruptions come January 1st. Today's agreement is a transitional agreement. It's not meant to be in place for very long, but it does replicate the bulk of what Canada had in the European Union trade deal. They did have to change some things. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But the hope here is that they can keep most of it going with a fairly seamless transition. However, there will still be legislation that needs to pass in Canada's House of Commons, because you have to change some regulations, some custom tariff schedules, some laws to fully implement this. And we know that we're almost in December now. There's only a couple of weeks left on the parliamentary calendar. So we may yet see some drama here, sorting all this out on time. I asked Mary Ng about that, and she was really focusing on what she was trying to do for businesses as far as a seamless transition. Take a listen.
I guess the focus here is that we do have a transitional agreement that is really good for Canadians and for Canadian businesses. We've always said that we wanted to make sure that there was continuity and predictability and that stability. And I just want to remind everyone that that when the UK decided that they were going to leave the EU and thereby CETA, we agreed to work together.
But what exactly did they change? That was pretty much left unmentioned and unexplained at this news conference. We do know that to take an agreement that was designed for 28 countries and change it to one that's designed for only one country, the negotiators had to be dickering over some things the last few months. That's why it kind of took them to the 11th hour, frankly. And they're not being terribly forthcoming in going over kind of exactly what these differences are. So we'll keep trying to pull that out of our sources, John, in the meantime.
As you say, Janice, the stakes are high, $30 billion going back and forth between the two countries. We sell nuclear equipment, aircraft, minerals, all kinds of things. So what else do we know about this agreement?
Yeah, and if you hold up all the news releases, interesting to see the British today talking about how things like Canadian lobster and maple syrup aren't going to face tariffs after all, like they would have if they hadn't done this deal. Telling British car makers, for example, that, you know, if there's people in Canada who like to drive a fancy British car, you're not going to face a tariff on it come January 1st if you've got the cash to buy that. But hearing some reaction from business groups initially, the Chamber of Commerce saying that this is a bright spot an otherwise pretty gloomy year for a lot of businesses. Also, the Business Council of Canada lauding the fact that they are getting this in under the wire, but, you know, emphasizing, as I was saying, that they're looking forward to seeing the details of this agreement, and they believe more can be done. I also want to point out that the group that represents farm exports, the Agri-Food Trade Alliance, not terribly happy with the way things landed so far, saying a lot more needs to be done to open the British market for things like grains and Canadian meat. They've been unhappy with CETA even, and they're really going to be pushing hard in this negotiation to come to get a lot more of the British farm market for Canadian goods.
Thanks for this, Janice. The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa.
You're welcome.